Okie dokie, let's get this garbage fire started, shall we? Here's how this is going to work. The first part of this video is going to be a deluge of positivity about the best character in Kingdom Hearts who I would literally murder someone for, and why he's the best thing in video games. The second part is going to be self-indulgent ranting about why your memories of Teen Titans are lies. Okay? Good. On with the show. I've been very adamantly against any property that tries to go super serious and stood rigidly against people who advocate that things like Disney movies and superheroes need to be darker. As far as I'm concerned, the push for everything to be darker and more serious comes from little more than insecurity. I've seen too many people get hyper-defensive when you call something like Friendship is Magic a kid's show, as if I've somehow insulted their intellectual maturity rather than listed a show's classification. There's a frighteningly large number of people who enjoy animation, but are so terrified of being perceived as childish that they demand every single animated property under the sun go darker and more grown up, even when that would be a terrible idea. So I stand firmly and adamantly against that notion. Not only are animated shows better and overall smarter when they keep a solid head on their shoulders about who they're supposed to be geared toward, but the superficial trappings of maturity and making limp-handed efforts to be contemplative is what brought us The Legend of Korra. You know what every animated show should aspire to be like? Kingdom Hearts, with its gonzo story, over-the-top ridiculousness that keeps its ridiculousness by playing its stupid premise completely straight, and a protagonist who is just so happy and cheeky chips lovable that you just want to cuddle his big soppy face. Which leads us awkwardly into Sora. Sora is, in my not so humble opinion, one of the best video game protagonists ever written. In fact, when it comes to protagonists better than Sora, I can only think of Commander Shepard, a character created by the player but given agency by the game. In fact, note to self, do a video like this about Commander Shepard. Sora as a protagonist is extremely upbeat and happy. He's friendly to everyone, reacts to tense situations with delighted optimism, and in general is just excited about everything. When I first encountered Sora, I was honestly surprised. This is a Tetsuya Nomura character? In the same game where his previous characters get an edginess upgrade? Well, not so much. People often forget this, but in Kingdom Hearts 1, Sora is actually pretty damn melancholy. And in Chain of Memories... oh, fuck, Chain of Memories.
Goodbye.
What are you? What are you people?
But starting from Kingdom Hearts 2 onward, Sora becomes one of the brightest rays of sunshine even as the stakes just keep getting higher and higher. Some people might deride this as annoying or one-dimensional, but those people are going to hell for lying. Sora is exactly the kind of protagonist that Kingdom Hearts needs because the story is very dumb. And looking at the cutscenes of later games, one could be forgiven for thinking that you're supposed to be taking this shit seriously. But you're not. Like, I would be very surprised if Nomura came out and said that he expected people to take this story seriously. Like, just... no, Nomura, no.
That's just great. You know, if you want to believe evil McFinger Wiggles over here, just... could I just get a montage of this guy wiggling his fingers?
Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. Just a little bit.
So Kingdom Hearts is very dumb, but it makes that clear through the jovial attitude of the protagonist. You're not playing as some blank slate that the player can project onto, and you're not playing some bland everyman for the player to project onto, and you're not playing as someone with hashtag relatable qualities to make it easier for the player to project onto. Sora's just a big, happy-go-lucky kid. He's excited to meet old friends. He's excited to make new friends. He's excited to meet Santa. He's just so excited about everything. And this works for more than just keeping the tone in check. It also means that scenes where things get heavy or emotional actually have some fucking impact. When Sora breaks down in tears upon finding Riku in Kingdom Hearts 2, it actually has some weight to it because holy fuck, something brought Sora to his knees. Contrast this with Birth by Sleep, which is absolutely loaded with sad moments, none of which have any weight to them because the characters are in a constant state of anxiety or misery. Or contrast this with Steven Universe, which has long drawn-out character arcs about moping, which means that when genuinely bad things happen to the characters that they're not solely responsible for, it at best carries no weight and is at worst cathartic. And here's where we come to my point. If you thought this was an entire video talking about a relatively simple game protagonist, you're so very wrong. Kingdom Hearts and the works that emulate it benefit from their overall delightful tone because it makes their heavier moments hit you that much harder. The natural progression of any story has to involve raising the stakes at some point, and when the stakes are already low, it makes that raising mean something. Kingdom Hearts can raise the stakes very effectively by doing something to Sora. In fact, they do this in Dream Drop Distance by spending the last hour kicking Sora's teeth in and making him succumb to the darkness, where Riku has to pull him out. And then this happens.
Hey! Riku! You're safe!
Riku! Wait, haven't we got this backwards? And why are you having a tea party? You're safe, Riku! Oh, never mind.
In fact, they openly say that the reason they never mentioned to Riku that Akka was trapped in the realm of darkness was because Sora would have been swinging through the door to darkness, clenching a dagger between his teeth and completely disregarding the fact that it would kill him, and totally not because Nomura's making this shit up as he goes along. Sora acts as a necessary grounding rod to keep the story from becoming so grim as to burn people out. It's a storytelling method that any creator worth their salt is well aware of. The thing about misery and drama-laden storytelling is that when you have to raise the stakes for real, the effect is blunted by all the previous instances of moping, brooding, and sulking. It's the bed of nails principle. If you step on one nail, it hurts you. If you step on 1,000 nails, no single one stands out, and you're fine. This is why I hate, for example, characters who are primarily defined by their insecurities or self-loathing. It creates the illusion of complex characters while slowly inoculating the audience to misery. And as a result, it means absolutely nothing when something genuinely bad happens to them. When your character is getting the shit kicked out of them by an established antagonist, it's a bad sign when I'm reacting to said beating the same way I react to Peter getting hit in the crotch with a bag of nickels. This is the problem with the push for things to be darker and more mature. When people say that, 90% of the time they want the superficial trappings of maturity, meaning lots of grey and death and being happies for babies and the likes of which you can find plastered all over the DC movies. And while people say that's what they want, it's never actually been true. People say that because they're insecure about liking things that are supposed to be for kids. They imagine that there's something to be ashamed of there. But when buying habits are observed, even just keeping this to superhero movies, the Marvel movies consistently outperform the serious and mature DC movies. Deadpool was not only a financial success, it's been adored by fans throughout the world, and that movie only got its R rating because they say fuck and joke about masturbating. When actually presented the opportunity to prove that you want things to be more serious and grim, the audience that keeps baying about how great it is for things to be darker and edgier just doesn't show up. People say they want things to be darker and grittier because it sounds correct. I sat in a podcast while Lizzie and Zane talked about how great it would be if Star vs. the Forces of Evil, of all things, took itself more seriously and became more like Steven Universe. People praised Toffee for being such a calculating and manipulative badass, when in reality he's just flat and poorly voice acted. But he acts super serious compared to everything else, so just like Starlight Glimmer, people imagine a completely different character in his place. Oh, don't worry, I'll get to him. Not this week, but eventually. The dirtying of the very concept of being childish and silly has made people forget how an upbeat tone benefits good storytelling, how that dissonance between the tone being happy and things getting momentarily serious can positively affect a work, and is the reason that things like Kingdom Hearts, The Last Airbender, and Teen Titans are so fondly remembered. People act like these things were good because they got so serious, but the only reason those moments stuck with you was because the rest of the time they were happy and upbeat stories, and so these serious moments actually meant something. Tony Stark having a PTSD breakdown doesn't mean anything if you take out all the times he's being a delightful snarker and party animal. But if you listen to insecure and pseudo-intellectual warbling, you could be forgiven for thinking that people want you to take out all those upbeat and character-establishing moments. The importance of good management of tone is an art form that is so underappreciated, and I suppose that's by design. Good tone management is supposed to make the heavy moments mean something, and when it works, the heavy moments stand out, and so that's all people remember. I think Teen Titans really stands out in this regard. So many people remember this show for how it tackled mature subjects, but that only happened about 20% of the time. The rest of the time was spent being a big old sitcom-style laugh, engaging in slapstick and dry wit. The fact that you remembered the heavier moments means the comedy did its job. You know what would have been terrible? Taking that comedy out and only having the heavy moments. I mean, I love KOTOR 2, but I wouldn't want every entry in the Star Wars universe to be KOTOR 2. I mean, fuck me gently with a chainsaw, that would be terrible.